Dems hypocrisy revealed again. That is the topic of today's op-ed live. So BBC News came out with this. BBC News, it's a very liberal news media in Great Britain. Trump and Pelosi, the meltdown photo showing Washington divides. A photo of U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi confronting the President Donald Trump at a reportedly explosive White House meeting has become a symbol of the deep divisions in Washington. You can see this picture right here, right? I think Trump tweeted this picture, and also probably Nancy did too. Nervous Nancy, I don't know. But I do know that Trump tweeted this image. In the image, leading Democrat Ms. Pelosi is standing up, you can see her right here, standing up at a large table surrounded by male congressional leaders and top military officials, pointing her finger at who? President Trump, right? Who is seated opposite her and appears stunned. I think he looks pretty angry, right? President Trump looks pretty angry at Nancy Pelosi's behavior there. Well, the Democrats has been not behaving well. They lost all decorum. You know, if you think about the Russia collusion hoax and the obstruction hoax, the Ukraine hoax, all the hoaxes they've been pulling out, you know, racist hoax, you know, everything. It's just, all they believe in is this fake world. And they want the people to believe it because they have their media friends. They have an incestuous relationship, and they have their media friends, and they're spreading these lies and trying to make American people believe their narrative. But a lot of people don't. I think more than half of the Americans do not believe the media. So anyway, Nancy looks pretty angry there too. So I don't know what exact conversation has been going back and forth. This is just a picture. I don't know whether they have a video clip for this. I think they don't. But afterwards, Mr. Trump, this is what BBC said, afterwards, Mr. Trump took to his preferred social media platform, Twitter, to share the photo along with the caption, "Nervous Nancy's unhinged meltdown." But Nancy Pelosi said it was Trump who had a meltdown. Pelosi, who said it was Mr. Trump that had the meltdown, hit back by proudly making the image her cover photo on both Twitter and Facebook. So she did put it on her Twitter. She made it her cover on both Twitter and Facebook. The original tweet by Mr. Trump has now been shared more than 24,000 times on Twitter because he has like 65 million followers already, right? With scores of people weighing in on what it says about the two top United States politicians. They say that this picture pretty much symbolizes what's going on between the Republicans and the Democrats, specifically between President Trump and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. I don't know. I mean, if I'm President Trump, I would be really angry about the whole thing. You know, being wiretapped, for instance, and having your volunteer members like George Papadopolis and Carter Page to be wiretapped and eavesdropped upon. I don't think anybody would be happy about it. You know, would you? If you're a political candidate and you won fair and square and duly elected, wouldn't you be angry about this whole thing that, you know, you somehow was a Russia agent, that you were a spy for a Russia agent and you somehow became the United States president and you were working for Russia diligently? Isn't that just nonsense and very heinous about it? Can't you see the hypocrisy of this whole thing too? That when it was the Democrats who colluded with Russia and Clinton Foundation received $145 million from 9 Russians. That's why you have to think the opposite way of how the mainstream media is spreading their news out there. You got to see it 180. You got to see it on the other side. You can't just feed yourselves with news that's coming from New York Times or Washington Post or CNN. You got to look at other websites or channels that has a different point of view. Because at this point right now, mainstream media is nothing but a bunch of lunatics right now. So anyway, it goes on. It has spurred debates on everything from gender inequality in politics to who would be the better president. Gender inequality in politics? I think this is just BBC's narrative that they just plugged in there. But at its core are the disagreements over one of the most divisive political issues of the moment. So this meeting happened last night, right? The Wednesday meeting was held to discuss the situation in northern Syria, where Turkey launched an offensive last week against Kurdish-led forces after the U.S. suddenly withdrew its troops. Just before the meeting, the U.S. House of Representatives voted overwhelmingly to condemn the troop withdrawal. So this is what exactly happened according to BBC. I think Trump gave out letters that he sent to the Turkish president Erdogan, and I think Nancy Pelosi decided not to even read that. She just, covered it up. She didn't even want to, read it at all. That's what has been. That is what, according to BBC, has happened there. And Mr. Schumer, Chuck Schumer, you can see him. You can see him right beside Nancy Pelosi there. Mr. Schumer has said the president then called Ms. Pelosi a third-rate politician. She later said it was third grade. Schumer thought it was third-rate politician, but she corrected him, saying, no, he said it was third grade. I don't know which is worse, but that's what happened. But you got to know this. The Democrats are angry that Trump pulled the troops out of Syria. They're angry for that. But look at this. This is what Fox News came out with today. Dems who praised Obama for troop withdrawal now highly critical of Trump. President Trump has met resistance from both parties after his decision to withdraw troops from northern Syria, but some of the rhetoric coming from Democrats is almost the opposite of what came from party members when President Barack Obama pulled forces out of Iraq. Do you remember when Obama, out of the blue, pulled out all the troops from Iraq? So all of a sudden, a success in Iraq, George W. Bush pretty much led the American troops to victory. Okay? I want to make it clear. It was a victory in Iraq initially. But after Obama stupidly pulled out all the troops, it created a vacuum. And that's how ISIS came out, right? And then Obama stupidly said it was a JV team. It's not Kobe Bryant, right? It's not Lakers superstar Kobe Bryant. It's a JV team. What was ISIS a JV team? No, it wasn't. It was a serious problem, right? They became bigger than Al-Qaeda. So that's why some people, some critics, and I believe that's right, that's the right assessment, they believe that Obama and Hillary Clinton were the MVP of creating ISIS issue. So anyway, now the Democrats, all out of the blue, changed and became all hawks now, war hawks. California Democrats Representative Maxine Waters and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, for example, have been vocal opponents of Trump's troop withdrawal after supporting Obama's efforts almost exactly 8 years later, okay? So as the war in Iraq draws to a close, this is what Maxine Waters said in a statement. Maxine Waters, the uber-liberal Democrat in Southern California representative. She said in a statement issued October 21st of 2011 this: as the war in Iraq draws to a close, it is my hope that this conflict will serve as a solemn reminder of the costs of war. Isn't this what Trump is trying to say right now regarding Syria? Why do Americans have to go 7,000 miles from the United States to help out people we don't even know that well? Isn't that what Trump is trying to say? It makes sense, doesn't it? It's not like they attacked America first, right? She went on, we must carefully re-examine our approach to national security and how we view the United States' role in promoting international peace and security. If we are to remain leaders in the world, we must always use our best judgment to determine when and how we engage other nations and other actors, particularly if we are considering the use of military force. Then how come Maxine Waters now is not on Trump's side regarding the Syria issue? Dems' hypocrisy revealed again, okay? That's what it is. So cut to October 7th of 2019, Waters blasted Trump for leaving Kurdish forces to fend for themselves against Turkish attacks. If the United States abandons the Kurds, these courageous allies will never trust us again, Waters said in a statement. How come she didn't say that to the Iraqis back then, 8 years ago, huh? How come she didn't say that? How come it's all the way around now? Just because President Trump is at the Oval Office, is that the reason why? That's why people should not believe these professional politicians, especially on the Democratic side. I mean, they're completely insane. All they're thinking about right now is still impeachment. Even though they didn't hold a vote, mind you, even though they didn't hold a vote, they're going to still investigate in secret. They're kicking out all the Republicans out of the Intelligence Committee when they're doing the secret meeting, secret hearing. It's just insane. And I told you already yesterday, the impeachment thing, it's already dead. And I believe Republicans they're gonna run the table, I think, next year on the House side. I think Americans are really angry about this. I know a bunch of Democrats who told me privately that they can't stand what's going on. I mean, it's like they're living in this Looney Tune world right now. So this is what she said. She continues, this reckless, misguided decision undermines the efforts by our brave service members and our allies to end ISIS's tyranny. This is ridiculous, right? But while Republicans had similar concerns about withdrawing from Iraq in 2011, Nancy Pelosi praised Obama for a promise made and a promise kept. Because Obama promised that he's going to pull out the troops from Iraq, and since he did that, she praised him. Even though Iraq later became a complete disaster, right? You all know what happened in Iraq afterwards, after Obama made that stupid decision, creating a vacuum there. Honoring the U.S.-Iraq security agreement and the wishes of the American people to bring all our troops home by the end of this year. That's what Maxine Waters said about Obama back then. Pelosi stormed out of a meeting after this meeting, with Trump Wednesday after what she said was a meltdown by the president. It's just, even Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders he also has a similar view regarding foreign affairs with Trump. I can't say similar, but regarding war, he's also not hawkish at all. He has been historically anti-war. But this is what he said during an interview with ABC's George Stephanopoulos. You don't turn your back on an ally that lost 11,000 troops fighting against terrorism through a tweet and a discussion with the Turkish president, with the Turkey president. So, it's all hypocrisy all the way. Even Bernie Sanders, back in 2011, he praised Obama's Iraq withdrawal. You got to know this. So Trump tweeted out this just moments ago. This is last night. I am the only person who can fight for the safety of our troops and bring them home from the ridiculous and costly endless wars and be scorned. Democrats always liked that position until I took it. You're right. He's right. President Trump is right about that. Democrats are usually the anti-war people. And it was always the Republicans who were a little bit more hawkish. But there's a caveat on this. Back in 2011, after 9/11 happened, both Democrats and Republicans, they were pretty much all for attacking Iraq at that time because they violated 17 UN resolutions and all that. You remember all that, right? But I do have to mention, Barack Obama was against that from the get-go. He was against attacking Iraq. But do you know who else was against going into Iraq? President Trump. When he was a citizen, he was also very much against going into Iraq. But I digress. Republicans have been equally critical of Trump, with 129 GOP members voting for a resolution in opposition to the withdrawal, joining a unanimous Democratic contingent. So Democratic side, they're all unanimous on Trump pulling out the troops. It's kind of hypocritical, right? If you really think about it over and over again. And there has been 129 GOP members also voting for a resolution in opposition to the withdrawal. Especially on the Senate side, you have Lindsey Graham, right? Lindsey Graham has been really strong. He has been a very strong supporter of President Trump. But regarding these issues, like whether it's North Korea, Iraq, Iran, and Syria, these issues, Lindsey Graham has been vehemently against President Trump. Okay? This is what he said. President Trump is being told exactly what President Obama was told before he withdrew from Iraq. He appears to be hell-bent on making the same mistakes in Syria as President Obama made in Iraq. So let's see who made the right decision. I think President Trump is doing the right thing. It's different from Iraq. Iraq was different. America went in there, right? America was the one who attacked Iraq. It wasn't like Iraq attacked America first, right? We've got to make this straight. You can't confuse this. But with Syria never attacked America. So it's a completely different story. You can't say Syria equals Iraq. It's a completely different story, okay? So President Trump tweeted this about, I am the only person, I already read that, about 500,000 human beings were killed in Syria while Barack Obama was president. So when Barack Obama was in the Oval Office, 500,000 human beings died, okay? And leading for a political settlement to that civil war. Media has been more outraged in the last 72 hours over our Syria policy than they were at any point during 7 years of slaughter. This is what Buck Sexton is also a conservative commentator who used to be a CIA agent, by the way, and a NYPD officer, I believe. I'm not sure about the police officer's thing. I believe he was. But he tweeted out this. Think about this. 500,000 people died in Syria while Obama was president. In the past 7-8 years, where were the media? Look at the media bias here, even with Syria. They are just so biased, so out of control, so, living in their dream world. Okay, media has been more outraged in the last 72 hours over our Syria policy than they were at any point during 7 years of slaughter. You can see the Syria issue all over the place. ABC, NBC, CBS, those three major networks, plus CNN and MSNBC, even Fox News. Everywhere. They're talking about it like it's crazy. More so even than in Iraq when Obama pulled out troops in Iraq. This is just, I think if you put it on a vote, I believe like 60 to 70% of Americans would vote for for United States President Trump pulling out troops from Syria. I believe that. Okay, let's check out some highlights, some headlines, and some Twitter feeds. So this is what I just read, right? About 500,000 human beings were killed in Syria while Obama was president and leading for a political settlement to that civil war. Media has been more outraged in the last 72 hours. Okay, let's move on to the next page. I think I read that already. I am the only person who can fight for the safety of our troops and bring them home from the ridiculous and costly endless wars and be scorned. Democrats always liked that position until I took it. Because Democrats are always anti-Trump, right? Democrats always liked walls until I built them. Because Democrats, if you think about it, 7-8 years ago, they were all for building a fence or a wall on our southern border. Do you see what's happening here? Yeah. Dems hypocrisy revealed again. That's what it is. Let's move on to the next page. Praying Medic tweeted this. By mentioning Anthony Weiner's laptop publicly, Trump is just adding a little more anxiety to the already unbearable worry of his enemies. Because Trump, he mentioned last night about Anthony Weiner's laptop and the computer server. Where's the server? He kept asking. Where was the server? It was at CrowdStrike, right? Not FBI. FBI asked a separate entity, a private company, CrowdStrike, which has bunch of board members who support the Democratic cause and who also supported Hillary. And one of the board members, by the way, was Eric Schmidt, former Google CEO. Okay? So, where is the server? It seems like the server might be in Ukraine. That's why Trump talked about it. If you look at the transcript, if you read the transcript, you shouldn't focus on, oh, Trump pressured Ukrainian president to investigate, Biden. There was no pressure. He just asked, right? You shouldn't focus on that part. Do you know which part you should have focused on? CrowdStrike. Without knowing CrowdStrike, you do not know American politics correctly. You have to know that. Because it was CrowdStrike who said Russia hacked their computers. Whose computer? John Podesta's computer, and also who? DNC. So, don't you see something fishy here? I believe it was not hacked, and it was an insider, It was an insider who gave these information to WikiLeaks. And that's how a bunch of emails got revealed. That's how I see it. And I think that I'm pretty much correct on this. Let's see what happens, okay? Let's see whether Julian Assange is going to open his mouth about this. Okay, let's move on to the next page. Trump tweeted, "What has happened here with the Anthony Weiner laptop, the server, all of the emails between Uma Abedin and Hillary Clinton, the deleted Clinton emails. What is going on?" This is Lou Dobbs' program, a Fox News business program, and Joe DiGenova and his wife, Victoria Telsing, came out and mentioned this. Don't you want to know what's in Anthony Weiner's laptop? Don't you want to know that? I want to know that. I want to know what's in there. Because that's why James Comey was forced to reopen Hillary Clinton email scandal investigation, right? James Comey didn't want to do that. You got to know this. FBI did not want to reopen this case. But do you know why? NYPD, the New York Police Department, some of the officers were preparing to have a press conference regarding this issue. And then the Justice Department had a hissy fit and say, no, we'll do it. We're going to reopen the case. You just quiet, you just be quiet. Don't open a press conference. That's why they reopened that investigation. And people want to know what's in there, the Anthony Weiner laptop. There has been some people saying that there's so many heinous content there. And also, there's some Hillary Clinton emails also inside there too. Who knows? I mean, that's just hearsay so far, but we got to, let's see what happens regarding that. So, Uma Abedin, Hillary Clinton, Anthony Weiner, I don't think they're happy right now. Let's go on to the next page. 50%. Thank you, working hard. 50% approval rating. From where? Rasmussen. Rasmussen was one of the most correct poll out there back in 2016 election cycle. You got to remember some of these. Most of the other polls, I think it's fake, especially the Washington Post, ABC, do not believe their polls. I think Fox News has been very unfair to Trump. Last week it said 51% of Fox News poll respondents said they support impeachment. But if you really look into it, they kind of, meddled with the sampling. They had 48% Democrats against 40% Republicans. So do you think that's a fair assessment? That's a fair poll? I do not. So Rasmussen, it's a daily tracking. Yesterday he hit 50%. I don't know today, but it might be around that number. So he's popular. He's, with close to 95% of the media outlets all against Trump, and him still being able to hold 50% approval rating. That's amazing. That's like a miracle. Okay, let's move on to the next page. Okay, Senator Rand Paul just wrote a great book, The Case Against Socialism, which is now out. Highly recommended, as America was founded on liberty and independence, not government coercion, domination, and control. We were born free and will stay free as long as I am your president. Yeah, of course. I mean, people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, you have these lunatics going around, saying that, we have to go to socialism and all that. They got to look at what happened to Venezuela. Venezuela was one of the most richest nation, right, back in the day, but not anymore. That is not the case because of socialism. Okay, let's move on to the next page. Republicans are totally deprived of their rights in this impeachment witch hunt. No lawyers, no questions, no transparency. The good news is that the radical left Dems have no case. It is all based on their fraud and fabrication. Let's move on to the next page. Our record economy would crash, just like in 1929. You remember all that, right? Great Depression. if any of those clowns became president. Clowns meaning the Democratic candidates, presidential candidates. I do believe most of them are clowns, but some, they're okay. I would say probably Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang. They're two of the more normal candidates out there, but I don't think that they have any chance to win. Okay, let's move on to the next page. You would think there is no way that any of the Democrat candidates that we witnessed last night could possibly become president of the United States. Now you see why they have no choice but to push a totally illegal and absurd impeachment of one of the most successful presidents. This impeachment thing is nothing but a hoax. Nancy do not want to hold a vote, because once she does, all the people who vote for impeachment, they're going to pay severe consequences next year for the 2020 election. So they don't want to put their names under that, under that cloud. But they want this narrative to go on. And probably they're trying to even persuade Republicans to join their side. So Trump is forced to resign, like Nixon did. But that's not going to happen, I mean, they're living in their own dream world. It's a unicorn world. Okay, let's move on to the next page. Democrats are allowing no transparency at the witch hunt hearings. If Republicans ever did this, they would be excoriated by the fake news. Let the facts come out from the charade of people, most of whom I do not know. They are interviewing for 9 hours each, not selective leaks. Let's go on to the next page. Okay, this is what Paul Sperry tweeted. Democrat impeachers in tone. American presidents should never press foreign powers to target their domestic political rivals. Ha, speak for yourselves. Spygate, Obama knew. So Obama, pretty much he's saying that, he spied on Trump. Spygate, the whole thing, the drill. FBI use their sources, using weaponizing the intelligence community and spying on Trump. That's what Spygate is. Let's move on to the next page. Okay, the rally campers are already out in full force in Dallas, Texas. I think there's a rally tonight in Dallas, Texas. They lined up more than 24 hours before President Donald Trump's arrival, gearing up for the Trump rally. Look at how popular he is. I have never seen this kind of reaction, from even political junkies. They're not that crazy about, going to rallies. Back even during Obama, I didn't see this kind of reaction. So Trump is like Elvis Presley, like Michael Jackson, or like BTS. I have never seen this kind of phenomena. So the Trump phenomena is alive and well. It's even stronger than back in 2016. Let's move on to the next page. George Papadopoulos. I lived this spy story. The governments of the UK, Australia, Italy sent their agents. Mifsud, Downer, Halper, Azra Turk, and many more. With the new info on Mifsud's phones with the DOJ, my story was the one that exposed the greatest spying scandal in history. Downer is next. So Papadopoulos, he recently released a book. I recommend you to read it if you have time. I mean, he really goes into detail how he got spied upon. Okay, let's move on to the next page. Charlie Kirk, Speaker Nancy Pelosi, 79 years old, 32 years in office. House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, 80 years old, 38 years in office. He's pretty much saying these people, it's time for them to get out, right? Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, 68 years old, 38 years in office. Democrat leadership has spent 108 combined years in Congress. It's not because of their age. I don't want to be an ageist here, okay? I'm not discriminating. People, seniors are senior citizens. But look at the years, 32 years, 38 years, 38 years. It's, that's why the swamp is created, because they're in DC for such a long time like this. It's starting to show. Okay, let's move on to the next page. Insanity. The day after Nancy Pelosi announced she would not hold an official impeachment vote, Adam Schiff kicked another Republican out of his secret impeachment hearings in the Capitol basement. So they're doing this all in the Capitol basement secretly, Then what is this whole thing about? It's nothing but a charade, right? How is any of this legal? Retweet this if Schiff should be immediately removed. Let's go on to the next page. Kamala Harris owns a gun, but she doesn't want you to own one. Bernie Sanders flies on private jets, but doesn't want you to. Barack Obama is a multi-millionaire, but doesn't want you to be one. Elizabeth Warren picks her own doctors, but doesn't want you to. See the pattern? Dems hypocrisy revealed again, right? Okay, let's go on to the next page. Jellycat protesters burn and trample LeBron James' King James jerseys in Hong Kong, disgusting what the NBA Steve Kerr, Golden State Warriors head coach Steve Kerr, I think he should just shut his mouth when he talks about politics. He doesn't know what he's talking about. His dad was assassinated in Lebanon. I think he should know better, regarding human rights. Steve, I'll go on, has done by not denouncing China's human rights abuses and refusing to stand with the oppressed in Hong Kong. By the way, LeBron James is being excoriated by a bunch of sports columnists now too. Even USA Today's Kristen Brennan, right? I used to read her column a lot. She also said, Trump, she's very disappointed. She usually has been always supportive of LeBron James. Now she can't be that way anymore. That's what she pretty much wrote in her column. Because if, he tweeted this last year, LeBron James. An injustice here is injustice everywhere. So how come what's going on in Hong Kong, which is injustice, by the way, by the Chinese government, how come that is not? How come you cannot have the bravado to say that is injustice, okay? Even though the Chinese government try to push you around like that, you got to push back, right? China has to learn that America has freedom of speech. We can't succumb to Chinese rules. That's what he's trying to say. I know the economic impact that they have. There's billions of dollars involved in the business between NBA and China. I know all that. But what happened? Daryl Morey, he tweeted, right? Probably, it would have been good if he didn't in the first place, for business-wise. But he did, right? Then you have to try to resolve the issue. But what LeBron James is doing, that is not resolving the issue. You got to stand up and say, he just have to, he should have said, I think freedom is very important. But whether it's, in Hong Kong or China, that's how they have to go. And if China doesn't like it, then tough luck, okay, on China. And they should have a secret meeting between themselves. The NBA, probably Adam Silver, and the Chinese government. They have to resolve their issue that way, but not catering or appeasement to China. That is not the way to go. You can't do that to a dictatorship. And LeBron James should have known better. So let's move on to the next page. The Surfer Bill. LeBron James has a lifetime contract with Nike signed in 2015. Nike runs sweatshops, sweatshops in China. People working there report that they are forced to work 12 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week. The Guardian, about 600,000 people die each year from overwork-related illnesses. Okay, this is what the Guardian, which is pretty liberal, right, reported. Free Hong Kong. Okay, I do understand the economic impact, but LeBron James, he is being hypocritical. Okay, he should have thought about it more thoroughly. And when I listened to what he was saying, he was pretty much saying, hey, he was pretty much taking China's side on this. And I think that was not the right way to go. Probably it's unfortunate for the NBA, at a whole, for them to get this much of an, economic impact. For China boycotting games and stuff like that, probably, it's bad, right? Economically, but you can't cater to them. You can't succumb to what China wants you to do. So does that mean that other American businesses, they, the CEOs or the general managers or the board members, do they have to always watch their mouth when they deal with China privately, even in their private, what they privately talk about? This can be a slippery slope thing. So that's why LeBron James made the wrong decision. He should have just been quiet about it, and probably just say, I just wish that, China and Hong Kong, they have some kind of a peaceful resolution. I wish that they can work things out. Probably that would have been a much better response rather than taking sides on this issue. Because he has to know, most Americans and most journalists and most columnists out there, they're pretty much attacking LeBron James on this because he chose the wrong side. Hong Kong, they're fighting for their freedom there, right? It's a serious issue. You can't just say, decisions have ramifications, you got to watch your mouth, you got to be more educated. That's what he said. LeBron James should have been more educated about this issue. Well, that's our show for today. Our show is not about left or right, it's about right or wrong. To stay up to date with our latest videos, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel by clicking subscribe. Thanks for tuning in.